Patriot. I'm sure she's gonna talk about the Gold Star Mother. She's done so much for Patriot Prayer and America. And like Tiny said, what motivates her, it isn't Patriot Prayer, it's the country. Okay, Patriot Prayer is merely just a tool to get the stuff done that we want to get done. Okay, and Kathryn's been there for me. Just even like the conversations, whatever, the support, everything, just the calmness, consistency, and it means a lot to me. So Kathryn, thank you very much for everything you've done along this whole way. Okay.
Hey, I do want to, some know me, some don't, but I just want to tell you real quickly, you know, sometimes there are things that happen in your life that your life changes dramatically in one day. And mine changed on March 4th. I was an independent voter. I had never been involved in politics. I was always involved in business and helping people, helping large business find staff, or as an entrepreneur. I wasn't, you know, I would go vote. That was the extent of my big political activities. And so I voted, and I voted for an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur myself, I thought maybe somebody would try to balance the budget. So I was excited about that. And then on March 4th, I was invited to an event. And at that event, I learned a lot of brand new things. One of the things I learned about was Antifa. Now, Antifa is how they pronounce it. I pronounce it on purpose Antifa, just because I know that bugs them, which is kind of ornery. But I was there, and there was a Gold Star mom who was speaking at this event. And as she began to talk, she talked about losing her son in Afghanistan, and there was about 200 of these lovely masked people. First time I'd ever seen them. They came up as close as they could get to her, and they tried to shout her down, and they tried to stop her from speaking. And so I was in the audience and sitting there as the daughter of a World War II POW, as a grandmother of an active duty US Marine. It was all I could do to stop from running between them and her and trying to protect her. And so that day, my life changed, because I learned about a group of people that felt it was okay to be violent to others who didn't share their beliefs. I learned about a group of people who felt it was okay to try to shout them down. And that was before I even met Joey Gibson. A couple of weeks later, I was invited to an event that Joey put on. And I thought, you know, I'm gonna go. These people are trying to intimidate people and make them afraid. And even the Gold Star mom herself was like, I'm not sure I wanna go. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna go and I'll stand for you. I will go there. So I went to that event that Joey put on, and it was more intense because there was more of them. And we were kind of surrounded with fences, and then there was quite a few of them. And there were veterans, there were older people, there was like a veteran in a wheelchair. And they began to toss M80s and smoke bombs into the crowd. There were children there, and I was like, what? And then again, continue to learn, continue to find out about them. Now, I think this is like my 14th event since March, and I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot. I've come to some conclusions. Some is that many politicians kind of wink and look the other way at that. Many people who write for the different publications here in the Northwest, they sort of wink and look the other way. I mean, think about it, you guys. What would have happened, how many years ago now? 9 years ago? How many years ago was it when Barack Obama was elected? What would have happened if a bunch of us would have gone out there and tried to shout down people who went to their events? What would have happened? There would have been a huge outcry. It's like, what? And so that right now is is something, I'm standing here, we're here, and there are many people. I'm going to say, if there wasn't the fear that's been put on people, we'd probably have 1,000, 2,000, maybe 3,000 people here today. But they have been intimidated. And I also want to tell you that this little stuff that they're doing right here, this is the tip of the iceberg. They don't just do this at events in order to get press or whatever they're doing, but they target people. They get their names, they get their addresses if they can, and then they come to their places of work and they intimidate them. You know, a year ago I was working at a job I loved. I was working with people I loved, but that business was targeted. Why? Do you know the worst thing they've been able to find out about me is that I cross state lines to go to rallies. Wow, that's real bad. I don't know if you guys want to hang around with me after that. It's kind of like, wow. You know, I just passed a very detailed background check. I'm not a criminal. I've you know, taken care of my family. I'm a law-abiding, tax-paying citizen. But they targeted me. They put me on a list. They published it all over. They started calling my job simply because I come to these rallies, simply because I'm standing up. And also, the titles change. They go from, okay, I think back then I was a Trump supporter and my vote was a hate crime. That's what I was told then. Then it moved to, well, now you're a racist. Now, tell my half-Mexican daughter that. Tell my Native American grandchildren that. And you know what? They will laugh at you. In fact, they did, and they blessed my heart. When they heard that I was being called a racist online and I was being called all these things, they were like, oh my gosh, not only are you not a racist, but you didn't raise us that way. You raised us to judge people by the color of their, not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. What a blessing. And so I think it's important. I mean, right now, what I want to do, and I think it's so important that we keep standing up, we keep coming out. I want to finish up by just sharing maybe some of the things that you can do. Definitely protect yourself, protect your home. You know, install some more lights. I mean, some of you have heard about the big thing coming up November 4th. That's a big fear thing. But be aware of that. Be aware of them targeting people who say they're patriots. Be aware of that, because then, you know, it's always better to be prepared and not have it needed than have it needed and not be prepared. So be prepared for things like that, but don't fear them, because then they win. Don't fear them and then not do the things that you want to do. I do have my favorite Bible verse is one my entire life, back when I was hitchhiking a lot as a teenager, which was, God hasn't given me the spirit of fear, but love, power, and a sound mind, which means knowing what to do when you're in situations. And so I just want to encourage you. I'm so blessed that you guys are all out here. And like I said, if it wasn't for the intimidation, if it wasn't for the threats, if it wasn't for people spreading lies, there would be a whole lot more of us out here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.